I'm extremely excited, also a little bit scared. Looking forward to the challenge, and there's a lot of anticipation around how it's actually going to be received, you know, in the town. There's a lovely buzz in the room. Everyone that I've spoken to is just passionate about the project.
We bought Vicarage Field Shopping Centre in May 2015, and ever since then we've been working with the Studio 3 Arts guys, and they obviously came to us and said, right, you know, we've got this production that we're wanting to go, and we're obviously want to be very much a part of that and get part of the community. And so for us it was really exciting to be able to, as a shopping centre, be able to come in and work with them and sponsor them, so it's really exciting.
I really wanted us to mark the Shakespeare 400 anniversary in some way. So I always knew that what we would do would have to be really visible, really public and really noisy. Noisy kind of politically and kind of figuratively. I think that was always going to be quite important to us.
His language is so beautiful and fruitful, and we don't use a quarter of the words that were used back in the day. So when I had the opportunity of playing such a pivotal, fantastic female character, as far as I'm concerned, one of Shakespeare's best female characters, I thought, yeah, I've got to take this opportunity.
When you're in a small cast, you really get to know, like if there's like two other people in it, you really get to know those two people. So in a big cast, there's so many people to learn all their stories and learn what they're about. So I've really enjoyed getting to know so many new people.
Ashley's a very clever man. I won't lie, when I first read the script, I thought, oh, how is this going to work? But it wasn't until the recalled workshop audition, when lots of good actors were really throwing themselves at this script, myself included, throwing themselves at it, that it sounded brilliant. And yeah, he's very clever. Like he obviously has an eye, he knows what will work. It wasn't until I read Ashley's script that it goes a lot deeper. She wants Portia to be happy, and she wants Portia to find the right man, as opposed to just being a maid on duty, you know. So yeah, Ashley's definitely brought stuff out of the script.
There's a lot of the original in there, and other stuff that Ashley has adapted to make it more accessible and tighter so it can be performed in a shorter space of time.
The themes in the play are tough. They are tough themes. There is no hiding from that fact. So we're talking about racism, anti-Semitism, religious intolerance, debt, and personal debt particularly. Shakespeare wasn't made, the plays weren't made to be read, they were made to be heard, they were made to be seen, and oh God, it's such a hackneyed expression, but all of those themes that Shakespeare was writing about play out now. They are here.
Cutting down was hard, from 3 hours to an hour and a half, and still trying to make sense of it all. But also not making it sound like a panto, like a Shakespeare panto, and just putting in references so people go, way, Barton Station.
So that meant that we spent a lot of time talking to people that live here, talking to people that trade here, and really understanding the sort of historical context of trade and economy, how they kind of meet out in a place like this, as opposed to how they did in Venice.
Also marrying the language. I didn't want to lose Shakespeare completely, because then it wouldn't feel like Shakespeare. We might as well have just told our own story and just completely modernised it. And so adapting was definitely the right word, and combining my use of language and poetry. So I think that was definitely a challenge of going when to take something out, when to put a nay or hath, or do I put the hath in, or do I just leave the hath, or do I just keep the hath that Shakespeare put in, and all of that, and what references to do. I wanted to make sure that some references from Shakespeare were still in there.
I think it's really important to give people in the community this kind of a opportunity, really, which I've already had before, but I know how fun it will be for them on the night, and what an amazing experience it'll be. Something, a lifelong treasure, really, because they're not jaded by the business in any way, and they just come in and they're just really pleased to be there and work really hard, actually. And I've been quite surprised that people with no experience whatsoever are working all the way through the scenes. In fact, I've worked with actors that switch off when it's not on them.
Been very instrumental in terms of doing, getting the community cast involved in the larger scenes, and so that there is you can't see the join, basically. Some of them have never acted in their lives before. You know, we've got teachers, we've got, you know, sort of members of just the local community who are working mums or mums, you know, and so yeah, and local students are involved as well. So we've got a whole sort of spectrum of people. I don't think you can do a show about barking without having the people who are barking in it, to be perfectly honest.
The cast, the community cast, rehearsals are really good. We do a lot of work together and they're so totally different to the actual principal cast rehearsals, which I've only done a couple. Today's been sort of like one of the big first days for me, so it's very enlightening and it's really cool, really enjoying it. I think working with the professional actors and seeing how they work has been the best part for me so far, yeah.
The thing I keep talking about when I talk about this play is so many things chose us, we didn't choose them, and actually the community cast really started to make themselves known through that process, because the people that were prepared to give us their time to comment on the script or to tell us funny stories about Barking were the people that were really interested in the project from the start, and then they just, you know, brazenly asked if they could have a part in the play. We got a casting director in place and we wanted actors that could relate to East London. We asked him to specifically try and find local actors if he could. And we also knew that we wanted actors that wouldn't be fazed by working in this way. This is not a theatre with a plush green room. They owned the audition room in such a significant way that there was no challenge for their parts. They were just superb and the right people for the roles. Mark was originally called to audition for Bassanio. And when he walked in the room, he's got incredibly commanding physical presence, and he's got such a deep and, I don't know, just a really powerful kind of voice quality. The minute he started reading Bassanio, we were like, this is not right. And Ashley just sort of sidled a little note along the table that said, ask him to read for Shylock. I think it's been a really good process. I mean, what's really led it is having two really strong people in the kind of directorial position. So Angela as the kind of main director, really sort of pulling the piece together and leading the rehearsals with the professional actors, and then Jules Tipton as the assistant director with a specific responsibility for the supporting cast. But actually those roles have really kind of blended and they've been quite sort of fluid in the way that they've worked actually. It's been like pushing on an open door, you know, everyone's wanted to be involved. All of the locations around the town that we've used, the staff have been incredibly accommodating. You know, the security guard from over in the Technical Skills Academy found his way into one scene, and you know, all that kind of stuff. It's just been really lovely that everyone's really got behind it. The feedback's been really good. Lots of people have said, we've seen Barking in a new way. I didn't know that was there. I didn't know you could get in there. Look at this space, particularly the council chambers where we do the courtroom scene. It's such an impressive room. Inside an impressively built and with a building with a really beautiful facade. And when you get inside it, it's just stunning. And it really is such the perfect place for us to end the play, you know. So yeah, the feedback's been great. There was one lady sent a tweet yesterday that said something like, can't believe I only paid £10 for this. I would have happily paid £50. And you know, people are really inspired by it. They're surprised by it because it's funny and it's quirky, and yeah, people have been very welcoming. I think you can feel it in the air. Something is changing here. The landscape is changing and the demographic is changing, and people are kind of demanding a wider cultural offer. So hopefully Studio 3 Arts is in the right place to be able to kind of drive that. There was a lovely moment where Will, who plays Launcelot Gobbo, met Robin, a local person who plays his dad. They met for the first time and Will just kind of went, "Hi, Dad." And Robin just went, "Hello, son." And they just had this big hug and they've been kind of inseparable since. And it was just like, this is what this is all about, you know.
A lot of people come and see a show and they don't realise how much happens beforehand to make that work. And so that was it. I mean, this week alone, I was in until about 1 o'clock in the morning making things happen.
Mislike me not for my complexion, this permanent tan from the vibrant sun. My blood is as red as any man, but I am twice the amount of fun air.
I love Shakespeare, and I find it brilliant when people want to make it accessible for younger generations that maybe don't understand it or maybe haven't had much of an opportunity to learn it. I never studied Merchant of Venice. It was the really popular ones. It was Romeo and Juliet. It was A Midsummer Night's Dream, which are kind of the main staple Shakespeare plays that are done. It's always really helpful when you get to just work solidly with the director, with the assistant director and with the principal cast. But then it does come a time when, because there's so many different components to the scene, like I said, with the dancers, community cast, with music.
The cast found it quite overwhelming to begin with, the idea of being outdoors and how much harder you've got to work your voice in those kind of spaces to command an audience.
If you're asking me what's been the hardest thing about this job, not playing in a space, because this is promenade, I've never done it before, where you're travelling. But I think it'll be quite gripping for the audience. There's lots of different colours and flavours going on with different scenes and, you know, storylines.
Shylock! Shylock! Look to him, security. This the fool that replaced charging interest with common courtesies. Look to him.
Hear me speak, good Shylock.
I'll have my bond. Speak nothing against me taking my bond. Thou called me a dog, without any thought. Well, if I am a dog, beware the fangs I sport. The Duke will grant me justice.
I pray thee, hear me speak.
I'll hear no more of your words. Nothing more from you. I'll take my bond. I've sworn an oath I will take my bond. I will not be made a dull and foolish Jew who dances to a Christian tune. I will have my bond. This I swear.
He must be the stubbornest dog to ever walk among his men. Trust me, I know a lot of them. They're all, boss, I was only parking here for a couple of minutes. Shylock is like one of these men.
Leave it be. I'll follow him no more with bootless prayers. He seeks my life. His real reason will I know. I've delivered many from the clutches of his loan shark hands, therefore he hates me.
Surely the Duke will not allow this contract to hold.
The Duke cannot deny the course of law. For the commodity that foreigners have with us here, if it be denied, it will much impeach the justice of his state, since trade and profit depends on all our nations. My fears and worries have caused me so to waste. I shall barely spare a pound of flesh my bloody creditor tomorrow. Pray God Bassanio comes to see me pay his debt. For aught else, I would care not. Yeah, I'm going.
So I'm playing Lancelot, the Gobbo, the Fool. And he's basically, in my opinion, is just there to act as comic relief. And that's generally the role of most fools, in my opinion. Just there to heighten up a scene. Even in Mondays, when they show it to be 3-4 hours, it's a long time for an audience to be sat there just intaking information and anger from people. So the jester or the fool's there to lighten it up a little bit.
A bit sceptical as to how it was going to work, really, but it's working really well. The language, the way that Ashley has translated things it's great. You can really understand it.
I want it to create an appetite for more. So I'd like people to just say, what's next? What's the next thing? Or how do we get involved in other stuff you're doing? And I want them to come to me and demand of me. Already a couple of volunteers have said, I've got an idea for next year's play. To come away thinking the Barking is a place where really seriously brilliant and exciting stuff does and should happen.
When my drama teacher, when I was about 16 years old, really made me engage with it, that's when I started going, hold on, it's phenomenal, because things written over 400 years ago still are so relevant today, and the problems in the world or issues or things between love and money was always creating problems between people. So for me, I think what Shakespeare means to me is not to forget. There's a famous quote that says, those who forget the past are condemned to repeat it. And I think Shakespeare really reminds us of that.
I think East London boroughs have had a bad press. I think people in this part of London are told frequently, you can't, and this is about showing people that actually we can. There's a huge amount of creativity in the borough and within Barking itself. You know, and it's about time people actually sat up and took notice. You know, I think that's the biggest thing for me. It's about community engagement as a whole thing, rather than, you know, just kind of looking at this in isolation. And, you know, just kind of recognising that the arts are not just for white people that can pay. They're for they're for everybody.
I pray you, let me look upon the bond. Shylock, this 3 times the money offered.
An oath. An oath. I have an oath in heaven. Shall I disregard my oath and lay perjury to my own soul? No. Not for him, not for no one.
Why, this bond is forfeit, and lawfully by this the Jew may claim a pound of flesh, to be cut off by himself, nearest to the merchant's heart. Be merciful. Take thrice thy money. Bid me tear the bond.
I will tear the bond when the bond is paid.
I think it's going to put a lot into the area. We don't have a lot of this sort of thing here. I mean, I'm part of a theatrical group, which we do pantomimes and we do musicals and things like that. But there's not a lot of community theatrical stuff, and I think it's going to be great to get so many people involved in it, and hope it carries on, you know, that people stay interested.
My hope for this production is that every year a summer production is commissioned for Barking and Dagenham to bring theatre here. A lot of people feel like they have to go out of this area for theatre. So I'm hoping that this starts a wave of work being created, whether it's promenade, whether it's site-specific, whether it happens in the Broadway theatre, but I hope work that is created, produced by Barking and has people, professional actors, yes, but also local people involved. I hope it's a wave of things that in 10 years we can say, remember the first Merchant of Venice, and now we've done all of this original work.